main hall here. As you can see, it's still a bingo hall, been shut 2 years, but originally there was the cinema, single screen cinema, built by my grandfather in 1922, I think. And this formed part of the chain of cinemas of Cheshire County Cinemas Limited over the whole Northwest, including Walton Cinema, Walton Picture House, and I think the Dingle, one in the Dingle, we had a share in that one as well, one of the first to open that. And then going through to Runcorn, La Scala in Runcorn, which has been shut down now. That was one of the, you'll find that in the Beatles books. It was one of the first concerts outside of Liverpool performed by the Beatles. Promoted by my father. So, but this is the last one standing, listed building, and here you'll see the pay office. This is the pay box where this was the ones for the poor ones. The poor seats had come in, they'd queue down the side of the building. So coming in through this door here. So they'd come in through this door here, and then you get your seat tickets here and bump in. And generally these would be for the kids who are doing the Saturday matinees, all the cowboy shoot-up films, Flash Gordon. And then all the posh people had come in through the front entrance at the top there, and with the pay box there, and they'd be going to the seats at the top. And we'll go up there now and I'll show you. You'll see the original seats, original seating, and original carpets as well from the 20s. So it shows how well they were made. Okay, shall we go up?
What did you do with all the other cinemas then?
Well, over the years they got knocked down, they shut and knocked down. It's just the state of the industry. I mean, the way the cinema industry was a bit like Woolworths. So everyone wanted to go past Woolies and they wanted to see it open, but they didn't want to go in. And cinemas, in a way, have become the same since flat screen tellies came out, and Freeview, and the DVDs, pirate DVDs, and the online has just killed the cinema industry. So now you'll see that almost most towns, not cities, but most towns don't have a cinema. You know, and if anywhere, you know, there'll be just one multiplex in an area serving several small towns around. So really, unfortunately, my generation, I was fourth generation cinema owner, and my generation is here to shut them down, you know, which is sad, but unfortunately it's just the way it goes. I mean, like I said, the business was started by my great-grandfather in the early 20s. He was a vaudeville. He made his money in vaudeville, a Glaswegian comic. Made his money on the stage. He used to play the London Palladium, and so they made their money then in the 1920s, and then they opened up cinemas and ballrooms originally, and so we used to have a chain. I think at one point we had about 10 different cinemas and ballrooms all over the Northwest, as I say, mainly around the Liverpool and then the South Liverpool area. And then from that, in the 60s, it went into bingo, and then bingo. So it was a combination of cinema and bingos. And then our last cinema shut down, running cinema, shut down in 2007. And that was the longest running family-owned, privately owned cinema in the country. So, gone. And so sadly, you know, that was it. That was the end of the cinema times for the Godfrey family. And then this bingo hall, again, we were running the bingo hall, and then the smoking ban killed us, like it's killed most of the bingo halls around. But we're left with this building, this beautiful building, which is listed. And now we're trying to arrange we'll go up these steps here. We're trying to arrange for it to be reopened as a cinema, as a charity-based cinema, for the local kids and for the elderly. At least, you know, there'll be some sort of cinema nearby. Because it's a crime that the building stays empty. I mean, it's meant to be used. I mean, as you can see, it's beautiful. It's meant for the public. So literally, I can hear it crying because it's not being used. So hopefully, shortly, by the end of the year, we should have it all in place to get it up and running again as a cinema for the community. So here we come upstairs to the balcony where we see the original seating. As you can see up here, that's where the projection room would have been, throwing out the projection. So it would be in a combination of back then, arc lights were used for projecting the adverts onto glass slides, big glass slides, and then just regular 30mm projectors as well. Westex, etc. And so if we look down here, you'll see we've got the original seating and the carpet. You can tell that sort of 20s style carpeting, and still comfy. Oh, sit down. And yeah, so unfortunately this is it. This is the last of our cinema chain. The Walton Picture House was built by us as a family, and we ran that until I think about in the 1990s. That was my first memories of seeing a film in the cinema, actually at Walton Picture House. I think The Cat from Outer Space. So that was about 1972, 73. And we sold that on to another cinema family in Liverpool, the Woods, David Wood, who were a very they were a big cinema family, and his father, we're very close friends with my grandfather, Robert Godfrey, and I think David Wood Senior, and they were big cinema people in Liverpool, the Woods. And then he took on that cinema. Unfortunately, he died about 5 years ago, and I know since then they've done a similar setup that we hope to do here to turn it into charitable status.
It's quite a small, since I've been doing this project, it's quite a small, everybody knows each other, don't they?
Yeah, it was all a big family. And again, the Independent Cinema Association we used to have for the Northwest, unfortunately that shut down 5 years ago, but it was really nice. We used to meet at the Roxy in just outside in Hollingwood, so just North Manchester in Oldham, and that used to be like where all the independent cinema operators, we'd meet up and we'd chat and we'd talk about the business, generally moan. But that was a sign of the times, that when the Cinema Association shut, because literally all the cinemas had shut down. You know, if you go round to Manchester, the ones in Urmston, this one in Hollingwood, and then ourselves, all the kind of outlying towns, Ashton-under-Lyne, they've all ended up shutting down cinemas, and really it's just been left to the big boys. So again, corner shop, supermarket scenario. And unfortunately that's the nature of the business, the cinema business, is that very much the film studios decided that not only did they want to make money over the exhibiting make money from renting the films to the exhibitors, they themselves wanted to become the exhibitors. So it's no coincidence, you know, it's no surprise that UCI, etc., some of the biggest cinema chains are actually, you know, directly connected to the studios, so they can get the money all the way down the line. And really, it was a combination for us shutting down, like most of the independent cinemas, who were all either single screens like this or two screen cinemas. In the end, it wasn't so much just the fact that we were losing audiences. It was becoming more and more of a hassle. The renters put us out of business, because they like nothing more than a multiplex where they could leave a film for several weeks in one screen without having to change it around. So really we were having to fight the renters more and more for actually even getting hold of the films. And if you don't get hold of the film on the release date, it's useless. You don't get the money, you know, especially for the kids' films. So really it was a combination of factors that really made the decision for us to finally shut down. One, looking at the future, the nature of the business had changed, and either we had to invest a serious amount of money to update or close. And then really, as I said, the renters as well were making it harder and harder for the single screen operators. So sadly, they made the decision for us, really, to shut down.
It doesn't really make sense, does it, when you think about when you've got the multiplex? So there's like in one cinema, they'll have a film showing, and then 20 minutes later in another.
Well, it makes sense to them, because they're like, again, it's a supermarket tactic where even if they, you know, in supermarkets they'll sell a product at a loss. They call it a loss leader, just so they can get people in. You know, and the same with the cinemas. The reason behind them showing, for example, a Harry Potter film 20 times in a day is that they can just get all the audience in, and that's it. And then, you know, screw everybody else. You know, so unfortunately, when we were, you know, years ago when I was much younger, film had a chance to build up, because it would be in a single screen in all the different cinemas. So if you remember, I think you remember films, you know, 10 weeks later, people were still going to the films, you know, and you'd have queues and long queues and it'd build up a film. Whereas now, all the films, within 1 week, that's it. They're saturated and they've taken the audience because they're doing 20 screenings a day. You know, they do the maths, isn't it? 140 screenings a week per multiplex. So they just suck up all the audience. So after the first week, if you didn't get the film on release date, after the first week, there's no audience left to watch it. So unfortunately, that was the state of play for as far as on the operator side, like us, that was the way it was going. And the demands they were making meant it was becoming harder and harder to sort of operate as a cinema and be able to attract audiences. And it's sad to see because really, obviously, you know, you go to a multiplex and they're very much one's the same as the other. Whereas with the cinemas like ourselves, you know, each one was individual, you know, and it was very much you used to get a really nice cinema experience. You know, gone are the days where you've got, for example, our last cinema was I think it was 850 seat screen. So, you know, to have that sort of size of screen and have that collective feeling with an audience and a community of people all watching a film together, you know, it's gone because now you're all in little pokey 200, 250 seat screens. So I think it's sad for society as well. It's sad for the kids growing up, particularly because there was nothing better than being in a cinema for that hour and a half where you know, your imagination, reality was suspended and you were just caught in another world along with 800 other people and the vibe that would create as well. So very, you know, it's sort of, I think it's sad really. It's sad to see that the children, etc., the people of today can't really experience that, you know, that cinema sensation.